How's it going, YouTube? Michael from 3D Print Everything here again. We are going to do a super basic video today. It is going to be on how to level the correct way. So a lot of people, when they buy a new printer from me, I mean, that's the first thing. So this is for everybody that either has a printer and has problems getting their first layer done, or you've just bought a printer and you're having trouble. We're going to do it on this Kingroon at first here, but this will apply to just about any printer out there. So you're going to be able to use this, even though this is for a Kingroon. You can use it on your Creality, you can use it on your Mingda, your SainSmart, your Foldertech, just about any of them but that belt printer. That belt printer is a little different. Anyways, so on these Kingroons, we've got a nice little level function here. Now I want to show you multiple things so you understand how these things level in the first place. So just basics. You got your nozzle here. Plastic's going to come out of that nozzle. It needs to connect to this bed. That plastic needs to touch the bed and be slightly squished. It doesn't need to be like squish, like pressed real hard and like pushing out the sides, but it needs to be making contact and staying firm. So you're going to have what is known as a Z switch. So when you go to home, when this one hits, because this is your up and down, that's your Z, it's going to tell the machine, hey, that's 0 for the nozzle. So right here on the Kingroon, not all printers have something like this, but we have an adjustable end stop for the Z switch. So if I turn this down, when it hits, that nozzle will go further down. Okay, so we're going to go to leveling first. We're going to hit 0.1. 0.1. So our machine is now going to find home. This is the first time turning this one on too, so if anything funky happens, we'll go through it together. Scoot this over. I've kind of got these really tight together here. My cable management could use some improvement. Yeah, we're going to try cleaning this place up here in a couple of days, even better. I'm going to try doing a, as it finds 0 there. I've got an intern coming in, so maybe in some future videos, if that works out, you might get to see her. Come on. Bottles. And this is how you know that I do one-take videos, because stuff like that doesn't get edited out. Alright, so this filament is jumbled up, actually. So I'm going to have to fix that after a minute. Anyways, back to leveling. I'm always trying to fix that. So look at that. See that? That nozzle is just, it's way too far away. Now the other thing that's important here, so you've got your Z-switch, you've got your adjustment, your bed adjustment screws, and then you have your springs. Now, with any spring, it doesn't really matter if they're high tension ones or stock ones or whatever, you just want a good amount of tension on them. So you don't want this spring loose. You want to make sure that this feels tight. Now, like, just from the tension, like this is somewhere that I'm starting to feel some good tension. So I want that nozzle to connect right there, somewhere around here, because you don't want this to have enough that you can lightly touch it and vibrations will just knock this loose. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to move, go 10, and we're going to move the gantry up. Okay? That gives me just enough room to grab this, and I need to screw it in like this. Screw it down. Okay, let's go back. Level 1. Okay. Still, not anywhere close. So we're gonna go back, move, up, tighten this. Now this spring's super tight. Not wanting me to even. Let's see what's happening. There we go. Okay. Go back, leveling, 0.1. There we go, that's getting pretty close. I think we're still going to do it just a little bit further down now. Okay, so that's close. That's right about where I want it, but I'm going to go ahead and get it just a little bit tighter there. Okay. That's probably where I want it. Leveling, 0.1. Now, a lot of people will revert to a paper method, and I guess it's okay. I'm not going to knock anybody that wants to do a paper method. I've just found that the paper doesn't always work, and I've had other clients and people who have bought a printer who say that too. So I level it, and I'll talk about a couple other things that I add on top of that. But at first, it's an eye level, where really you just need, you know, a small gap, something like that. Like when you can just start seeing a gap, that's what you want. Okay, so 0.2. Now, if you don't have a point system like this, what you're going to do is you're just going to home the Z, and then you can either through the movement function move it across and make those different points, or you can disable the motors once you have it at Z and you can drag this by hand. But either way, that's what you're going to want to do in order to level anything else that doesn't have a function like this. It doesn't have like a leveling function. Back up. Yeah, so somewhere right there is pretty close. Go to 3. And if you're sitting here thinking, man, this is taking forever, I'm going to go ahead and click off this video. I've learned everything. This is not it, so just stay tuned. There's a couple more steps that I want to show you before you have a perfectly level bed. Meow. What are you doing, kitty? Hey, not up here. Anybody want a kitty? This guy is up for adoption. Meow. Meow. Okay. Oh, I pressed a button. So now, hold on. It's gonna go back to 1. Go back to 4. We weren't done with 4 yet. Okay, so right there. I know it's a little hard for me to keep this stabilized, and I'm going to apologize right now for how shaky this is. I'm only using a phone. I'm not a pro recorder or editor, so I do all these in one take. But yeah, so that's step 1. We've eye leveled that there's just a tiny gap, just a noticeable gap, in between the bed and the 4 corners. That's what you need. There's a 5 point, which is in the middle, but that doesn't matter, because if you got the 4 corners, middle is going to be level. Okay, so what we're going to do now is preheat this. We need to load up some filament, and we're going to start one of these prints. It's going to be nice and big, and we're going to level all 4 corners when the print starts. That is what is most important now. I guess we'll use... I really like this rainbow filament. It just looks super cool, so we're going to use some rainbow. Let's start with this one. Whoopsie. If you ever wonder why everything is so messy, this is why. So I do save my boxes here, and if you're a 3D printer, just as an FYI, if you don't know, we make our own filament. So a lot of the filament I use is our own brand, and we can recycle your empty rolls. So if you're, you know, looking at all your failed prints, looking at all your empty rolls and just thinking, oh man, I wish there was a way that I could recycle some of this, we can at least recycle your empty rolls. And even better, we'll give you 25 cents a roll for it. So if you send us your empty rolls or want to deliver them to us, 25 cents a roll. You know, if you've got 20 of them, you know. Yeah, so if you send us your rolls, we'll give you 25 cents a roll, your empty ones. and that's a nice little discount on things. We'll pay you 25 cents a roll for any empty roll, but on top of that, if you're buying our filament and you give us empty rolls, we'll give you 40 cents a roll. So that's almost twice as much. Give me, let's see if I can do this. There we go. Okay, so take this, break it off, make sure it's nice and clean there. I'm going to take this. Okay, and then another important one is got to make sure you have good tension on your filament. I mean, you want this to be nice and firm. So that one, you don't want to bury it, but you want it nice and squished. Okay, so everything is ready there. Now, because I have this one hooked up to Octopi, what we're going to do is, this is an Octopi interface. So if you haven't heard of Octopi yet, there is something called a Raspberry Pi. It's a little mini computer. And you can take that mini computer and load in a, just like Windows, you can load in a special operating software called Octoprint right here. And then what Octoprint does is it allows you to control the printer through a web browser. So normally what we would do is we would just have Cura here, and we would take our file and save it to an SD file, right? But now we save this to a disk, just, you know, somewhere on the hard drive, and then we come up here to this one and we go to upload, and see, this is the file where I saved it. So here is Spiral Big. Now we upload it. See, now we got Octopus. Now we're going to print it. Okay. So now the Raspberry Pi also allows you. So what you saw was this camera. It wasn't facing this like it should. But now we can view our print. And there's other plugins that are pretty neat. Octopi is pretty awesome. But and it's fairly easy. It's really not too hard to set up. Now, looking at this, it's kind of a weird. Okay, so right here, I want to show you. Look, even though we just leveled it, this is not close enough to the build. That's actually, that's not right. Okay, let's go back. Because apparently I've done something. Let me just see here. Okay, so what I'm seeing, one, is this is now trying to go off the bed too far, and that's not right. Oh, I know what was happening. Yeah, okay, I'll explain it. So, I added an add-on to Octopi, and what it does is condenses the G-code and makes a separate G-code. So, the Octoprint was actually processing data right there, and that's why it was acting all slow and stupid. That was what you saw up in this corner right here. So look, we're gonna stop this. Yes, cancel. So look right here, this was the next code. We'll try this one out. So what this is supposed to do, this other thing that I did, what is that one called again? Man, I forget what it's called now. But anyways, this little add-on that I got is supposed to remove the amount of steps in like curves. So it makes, like, instead of having a bunch of instructions, like, you know, we're gonna make a moon like this, instead of being like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it makes like one just big curve move, like, so it's kind of interesting. But let's go back over here because this is what's important. So let's take this first layer off so we don't get distracted by what that was. So we're just gonna actively, I just yanked all that off while it's printing, that's fine. Okay, right here, all this is looking real good. This looks perfect. How is it perfect? Here's the finger test. Run your finger over it. If you can put a little bit of pressure, and I mean a light bit of pressure, you know, playing your violin pressure. If it's not coming up, then you get, see, it came up right here. So it's coming up, Or this is what a skirt is good for, because if you level your prints, or if you run the skirt beforehand, you can make sure that your first layers are level before it actually gets to the print. So I've raised this one, and this one now already since we've started this print. But I mean, this is what you want to look for. It's hard for me to get the camera to focus, but it's just right close there. So when we're really looking at it, it needs to look like a nice flat line. You don't want to see a bead. A bead can be okay, but see, it comes up a little right here. Now some of this, it'll just be that it might need either a little more heat, either on the nozzle or the bed. And if you're still having troubles, you know, a little bit of glue can help. But I would say 90% of the time, it's just a matter of how close that nozzle is to the bed. And if see, look, right here, this is too close. So it's good it did this. See right there? See how it's light? See how it kind of squished right there? So we need to lower this side of the bed again. Right there, that's just a little too close. So I'm going to lower that one. I'm going to raise it in the back just a hair. I mean, and I'm doing a turn about like this. So maybe like an 1/8 of a turn. I mean, I'm doing really small adjustments to get this just right. You don't need to do quarter turns or half turns. You need to be doing like, you know, 1/5, 1/8 turns. But this is exactly where we want to be. So what you want to see is 2 lines touching. Like each line, like it just looks like one big line now, but that's actually 2. You know, now we've got 3 right here. So that is perfect. This gives us the perfect first layer. And you gotta always remember to look at, you know, the most recent one that come in, because I myself have looked at this and been like, oh, it's still too squished, but I'm looking at the outer line. You know, make sure you don't do that. But we now have a perfectly level bed. So I don't believe 100% of the time that just doing paper or just doing eye will work. What you really, really have to do is start a print, and if it's your first time leveling the printer, or if it's out of level, you know, you can make like a simple print like this that's only like 10 minutes, that just goes around, it's 1 or 2 layers, and you can do that. You know, this is an octopus that's just really big. You could do this and then stop the print. But this is what I'm doing to level this bed, and it'll come out real nice. That's how I level everything. So when you know, because what you want is this. You know, you just want a nice, even amount of lines. You know, and see, look, I didn't catch it on this one. Right here, my first layer, that's too squished. You don't want that. That is squished. Now the filament still came out, and it's okay. It'll work, but that's too squished, and that is so squished that it could potentially cause problems in a smaller print. That one will probably be okay, but you know, that can cause problems in that, like if that's a flexible print, the joints might now be too squished, and that squished material, you know, when you're talking about a gap like this so that 3D prints can move together, if you get 1 or 2 BBs on either side, now it's touching and you can't move it. So that is how you properly level any printer, and that applies to this guy too. You know, you do one big print, you know, because there's 0 adjustment here on your Crealities, on your Enders, 0 adjustment. So you just have to, you know, drag your thing out. I think this one has a leveling function, but all beds have those 4 corners. You know, this Mingda, it's got the 4 corners. You know, some other printers have certain things that are nice, like a dual Z switch. So there's a Z switch over here and a Z switch over there. So it hits this side, hits that side. I found this printer stays very level. They're out of stock, unfortunately. This is a SainSmart Coreception. I love it. It's a great printer. It's got LEDs. It's got a nice direct drive, a little plug-in cabled air, dual fans. I mean, it's a great setup. $600 something printer, but they're sold out. Can't get any more. Oh yeah, this thing's I just look up and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to put the filament in this one, and it's printing. So let's see, what is this? I still hadn't reached 0%, so yeah, we'll restart this thing. Okay, anyways, thanks guys. That's how to level a printer.